This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter welcoming you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, October the 4th, is a former Toronto Blue Jays manager. I know it's a little bit biased and all that, but this guy was a manager for the Blue Jays from 86 to 89, and then it took him 8 years to be a manager again, this time with the Red Sox, and then he was manager of the Astros for a bit. He even played in the Major League Baseball. He was known for being a coach, not the manager, but being a good first base coach. Anyway, he's Jimy Williams, who's now 80 years old. Jimy Williams graduated from high school in California and went to Fresno State to play collegiate baseball. Boston had him, and then in the Rule 5 draft, St. Louis had him. And over the next 2 seasons, he was playing 14 games for the Cardinals, only 13 at bats. He was then traded to Cincy after the 67 season, and actually was picked in the expansion draft by the Expos. He never appeared in Major League Baseball for either club. Because of a shoulder injury, he decided to become a minor league manager, and he managed with the Angels organization in 1974, becoming the AAA manager for the Angels affiliate. But the Blue Jays came knocking in 1980 and offered him the third base coach position. And for 6 seasons, Jimy Williams was an important part of the Blue Jays hitting instructors and all that. After Bobby Cox left the Blue Jays organization to go be manager of the Atlanta Braves, or well, actually be in front office position with the Atlanta Braves, Jimy Williams was easily promoted because he was the third base coach. And then as a third base coach, as a manager, he was okay. The 86 season was crap. 87, the Blue Jays had a chance to win the division and go on to face the Twins in the ALCS. Unfortunately, though, the Blue Jays choked badly. And the Twins would face the Tigers for the ALCS crown. Fortunately for Minnesota, they won that one and the World Series. 1988, the Blue Jays had a chance, but they've had a terrible start and didn't recover. And then 1989, they were 12-24, 333 winning percentage. And for the first time in history, the Blue Jays fired their manager mid-season instead of after the season. So he was then given the thumb out of Toronto, and Cito Gaston came in and helped the Blue Jays win the AL East, a segment I did days ago. Williams had 281 wins, 241 losses in his tenure as a Blue Jay. Not bad. And then he would go to Atlanta under Bobby Cox to become their third base coach, including the 95 World Series champion team. He was a good teaching coach, working with infielders. And Jimy Williams was the guy who really was waving his arms, trying to get Sid Bream to the plate against the Pirates in the 93 LCS. Sid slid, and the Pirates and the Braves were going to face the Blue Jays for the World Series. Fortunately for the Blue Jays, they beat their former manager, the 2 former managers in the World Series. So anyway, Atlanta in 96, the Red Sox actually decided to hire Jimy Williams to be manager and all that. Whitey Herzog and Grady Little were considered. Yeah, Grady Little before 2002. Anyway, the 97 team wasn't so good, but the 98 team won the wild card, losing to Cleveland in the ALDS. And then in 99, they won 94 games, but that was only good for the wild card because the Yankees are the Yankees. Anyway, the White Sox took care of Cleveland in the ALDS in one of the best Game 5s ever because of Pedro coming in relief. However, the Yankees would take him out in the ALCS in 5 games. Despite all that, he was named American League Manager of the Year. Unfortunately, Jimmy's relationship with Dan Duquette soured. And, Jimy Williams liked to change the batting lineup for games constantly, and that grew tiring and all that. There was a problem and all that. But when the Red Sox slumped in August 2001, Jimy Williams was let go. But he did win 414 games as a Red Sox manager. After the 2001 season, Houston made sure he was the manager and all that. They put up 84 wins. Anyway, yeah. Jimy Williams was part of the coach of the 2003 team that almost won the NL Central to the Cubs, faltering 6 times in their last 9 games. But after ownership signed Clemens and Pettit, the Astros looked good, and Jimy Williams was hoping to do so well. They were 44-44 at the All-Star game. But anyway, Jimy Williams was made to be a coach at the 2004 All-Star game in Houston. Not the manager, but the coach. But the fans jeered him. The next day, he was fired. And Phil Garner took the job and helped Houston somehow, in some way, get to within 1 game of going to the World Series against the Red Sox. Fortunately for Garner, the next year he led Houston to the World Series, even though they got swept by the White Sox. Jimy Williams just couldn't do it. But the Phillies made him their bench coach, and he was with the team in 2008 in that capacity, winning a World Series ring as a coach for the 2nd time. So anyway, as a manager in his career with Toronto, Boston, and Houston, he went 910 and 790. So 535 winning percentage. 5-9 in the postseason, though, with those 2 postseason bits in 98 and 99. So obviously he didn't have good stuff and all that. The funny thing about Jimy Williams is that he's actually a distant relative of the great Ted Williams, who actually backed him up when he was managing Boston. 2 of Jimmy's sons were former baseball players. Brady was chosen in the 1999 baseball draft by the Red Sox, and actually has managed, he managed in the Tampa Bay system and is now the 3rd base coach for the Rays. And they are in the playoffs as of this recording. Sean Williams had 4 years in the Tampa organization, but he's been a skipper or a manager in the Phillies farm system since 2014. So yeah, his 2 sons have done well in the minor leagues as being managers, maybe trying to get up to the big leagues, but we'll see what happens when the time comes. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.